Ethan had always thought his past was behind him, buried beneath the weight of his wheelchair and years of silence. But as the customs dog froze in front of him, his nose twitching with a strange intensity, Ethan felt the weight of something, much heavier than his legs. It was a secret hidden for decades, now about to surface in the most unexpected way. What lay beneath the footrest of his chair wasn't just the remnants of a forgotten life. It was a key to a past he could never outrun. It was the crack of dawn at LAX, the kind of early morning when the world feels like it's holding its breath, just waiting for the day to begin. The hum of the airport, usually chaotic and vibrant, was quieter at this hour, the calm before the storm of the day's flights. Miles away from the bustle, near the customs exit, a man in a wheelchair waited. His name was Ethan, and his eyes, though tired, had a quiet strength. He had been through airports a dozen times before, each experience a routine, except today. Today he could feel something was off. A black Labrador named Jasper was the first to notice. Jasper, a well-trained customs dog, had already sniffed a dozen people before stopping in front of Ethan. The handler, a seasoned officer named Officer Garcia, was used to these signs. The dog's trained nose could detect things long before the human eye ever could, and Jasper's pause wasn't ordinary. His ears perked up, his tail stilled. Then, slowly, he began to circle Ethan's wheelchair, a small growl building in his throat. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing around. He knew the routine. Customs dogs weren't uncommon here. He'd gone through this before, always with a sense of nervous curiosity. But today, something about Jasper's reaction felt different. Ethan had been through a lot in his life, but being the center of suspicion was new. Officer Garcia took a cautious step forward, his gaze now locked on Ethan. "Everything all right, sir?" His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, something that said this wasn't just a simple check. Ethan's lips parted, ready to respond, but he was interrupted by the low, unsettling growl of the dog. Jasper's nose was now inches from the footrest of Ethan's wheelchair, sniffing with a renewed intensity. It wasn't a typical search. Ethan could feel his palms beginning to sweat, his heart rate quickening. Was there something in his bag, a forgotten item in his pocket? "Sir, would you mind if I inspect your footrest?" Officer Garcia asked, now more cautious than before. The handler knew dogs. They trusted them. If Jasper was this focused, it meant something. But what? Ethan, despite the rising anxiety in his chest, nodded. He hadn't done anything wrong, but the situation was starting to feel a little surreal. He glanced at the officer, and then down, at the footrest, silently hoping this wouldn't turn into something worse. "Go ahead," Ethan replied, his voice tight. The officer knelt down to inspect the footrest, his movements slow, deliberate. The crowd behind them had started to stir, but the attention on Ethan felt oddly suffocating. A low hiss escaped the officer's lips as his fingers brushed against the underside of the footrest. His eyes widened. "What the hell?" he muttered, under his breath, his hand gripping something hidden there. Jasper, standing perfectly still now, continued to stare at the footrest as if he knew exactly what was coming. It was then that the officer pulled out an old tattered leather pouch worn with age, its seams bulging strangely. His gloved hands worked swiftly to undo the knot. Inside, something glinted. A small folded photograph, yellowing with age. The officer's breath hitched as he stared at the photo. He turned it around to face Ethan. The image was grainy but unmistakable. A young boy sat on a dock, his legs tucked beneath him, eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and something darker. Fear, perhaps. There was a man beside him, his face only half visible, a silhouette against the bright sun. The photo was old, decades old. Ethan's hands clenched the armrests of his wheelchair as the officer's eyes flicked back to him, searching for an explanation. "Sir, do you know what this is?" Ethan's face paled as he looked down at the photo. His mind raced back to a time he'd tried so hard to forget. The years when his legs hadn't yet failed him, when his life had been simpler, untouched by the weight of secrets. "Yes," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible. "That's me. And my father." Officer Garcia stood up, his face hardening, with confusion. He scanned Ethan, the wheelchair, the man who had so quietly sat there all this time, all the while carrying a piece of his past hidden away. "Your father?" Ethan nodded. "He was a good man once, but he didn't come back. I haven't seen him in years. I thought he was gone." The officer's brow furrowed. "Gone? Dead?" "No," Ethan answered, voice strained. "He was involved in something bad. I tried to run away from it, tried to move on, but I didn't realize he left something behind for me." His words trailed off. The officer's mind spun, trying to piece together the small bits of information he had. Something about the man in the wheelchair, the photo, and the strange situation didn't sit right. There were many layers to this, layers he couldn't see. His instincts told him this wasn't the typical drug or weapons bust. There was something deeper, something personal. Jasper sat down beside the officer, the tension in the air easing for a moment, but the question still hung heavy. What was Ethan hiding? "Sir," Officer Garcia said, his voice softening. "There's more to this, isn't there?" Ethan closed his eyes, taking a long, shaky breath. "My father, he wasn't just involved in crime. He was working for someone, a group. I never knew the full extent of it until recently. This photo, I think it's a clue. I think he left it for me to find." The weight of the moment hung thick in the air as the officer processed Ethan's words. Whatever the past had been, whatever secrets lay hidden in that old photo, they were far from ordinary. For a moment they just stared at each other. Ethan, the man in the wheelchair, whose quiet past had now caught up with him, and Officer Garcia, who had expected routine but was now facing something far deeper. Jasper's low growl rumbled again, this time not of suspicion, but of something else. Recognition. The truth was far from simple, and it seemed like they were both standing at the edge of something bigger than either had imagined. And as the officer looked into Ethan's eyes, he realized one thing. This was no ordinary customs check. As the story unfolds, the air grows thick with unanswered questions. Who was Ethan's father really? What dark legacy had he left behind? And more importantly, what happens when a past you tried to bury resurfaces in the most unexpected way? Now the choice is yours. Will you dare to dive deeper into the mystery? Will you join Ethan on a journey to uncover the truth, or will you leave the puzzle unsolved? The next chapter awaits and the clock is ticking. The auction for the secrets buried in the shadows is about to begin. Are you ready to bid on the unknown? The stakes have never been higher. The past is calling. What will you do?